Okay, let's talk about the ideal serve location. If you're serving and I'm your partner and I'm going to be up at net, the one place I really don't want you to serve, and let's take this example that we've been using where you're serving from the ad court, is that if you literally serve directly over the top of me to where it goes to the tee, and now what you've done, and imagine that you're the returner over on this side of the net over here, what you've done if they're right-handed, doesn't matter if they're right-handed or left-handed, but we'll just take the righty as an example, is you've now placed the ball into their forehand strike zone where they get to swing across their body back over into this alley. And that's really a much easier shot for the returner to take this side, swing across their body as a righty, swing across their body maybe as a lefty, as opposed to taking it and trying to change the angle of your incoming serve if you serve to the corner over here to the backhand side towards that alley, and force them to kind of change the angle and go back up the alley. That is a much tougher return, and typically what you'll get is you might get a few people trying to go out there and sort of rip the backhand up the line. They're going to miss it often enough to where you're to slow that swing down. The other serve location that I think is the best and that I try to serve to the most is going to be right to that returner's body. So if you're my partner and I'm down in here, what I'm hoping for when I come up is that I see that returner over there having to do this or having to do this in here with your serve coming right at their body. My fake is so much more effective then, and whether then I'm going to poach or just stay and you're going to cover, if we can tie up that swing by you serving right into the returner's body, we got a much better shot at winning that point. Okay, let's talk about serve direction for the I formation. And I'm not a big proponent here of ever serving to the tee, whether it's on the ad side or the deuce side. I just don't like serving the tee, because what this does is it really sets up the returner to be able to have a nice angle back cross court. And this is really a cross-court type of swing, which is the easiest shot in the book. So I much prefer to either serve to the corner here, and force this player, if they're going to take a shot and go up the line, they've got to play really a very difficult change of direction type of return to serve, or really the safest one, if you can do it, is just get it to the guy's body and try to tie him up this way. If I'm really encouraging this guy here if I'm going to stay, I'm going to show a fake and then come back in here, is I almost want to encourage this guy with this serve direction, to be able to play a ball right back at me. I mean, that's really the easier of the two shots of coming back cross court, rather than going up the line. So again, just to summarize, serve direction, I would go most of the time into the guy's body, and from time to time, if you want to go out wide, that's fine, and force this player, if they're going to play the return up the line, to really have a challenging type of really have a challenging type of return to serve where they got to change the direction of the angle of that incoming serve. Now, one of the big things that we have to practice with this I formation is to make sure the server doesn't tip off to the returner which side that net player is going to cover. And that might sound a little goofy, but I just played the national husband-wife grass courts, and we played against a tough opponent who played I formation against me. And after a while, I could see which way the server was going right after their serve. What I mean by that is that if you're the server and your partner signals, if we're serving here to the ad court and your partner signals that they're going to stay, that you've now got to cover over here to your right, If you put up a toss and your service motion instantly carries you over this way, sometimes that fake poach by your partner, it doesn't really hide what direction you're going. So you've got to be able to feel comfortable that you can serve, take one step forward, and then you can peel off over here to cover that side. So it's the same thing on this side over here too. If your partner's giving you that signal that they're going to cover to the right, meaning you got to cover to the left, if you put your toss in a spot and you start serving this way to where your service motion, your footwork's carrying you to the left, that returner is going to instantly see that, and they're going to know that that's where you're going to end up. That's where the return is going to go. So again, same thing on this side. You've got to practice as to where, when you serve, that you come in a step or two, and then you can go ahead and veer off to the side that you've got to cover. You don't always have to serve and volley on this. You don't have to do that. If you feel that these guys have been ripping your serve back, they've been returning the serve, the first set, steamrolling you guys, I don't care if you go ahead and if you're going to cover over here to your left, for example, that you put a serve in play and you just simply sidestep over, and if you get a ball back, then you can maybe play an approach shot or work them with a ground stroke or a lob, whatever. You don't want to put that pressure on yourself that you have to go a step or two in and then veer right and veer left and have to deal with a tough transitional shot. If you want to stay back, maybe look for an easier ball to approach on off of their return, absolutely no problem with that.
One of the most important aspects of the I formation working successfully not only is the net player being able, as we talked about before, to show a good fake out here to initially distract the returner, but also to help sort of cover up this initial step by the server. And even if you have a big fake, if the server here, and what you're going to see on this point here is I'm gonna give the signal that I'm going to stay, which means that my partner here is going to have to cover over to his right. But if even with my big fake over here to the right, if the server puts a ball in play and instantly moves to the right, it's getting easier now for that returner to be able to pick off the direction of the server's movement, which really tells them where I'm going to end up, meaning that they want to play their return away from me. So what you're going to see in this example here is that I'm going to give the signal that I'm going to stay in this position here, and that I'm going to fake to my right, and I want you to watch the server's first movement. The server's first movement is behind me, so that now what happens is this player can't really tell, if the server's moving to their right or if the server's moving to their left, and so the server, and I kind of call it the server's fake poach, the server's got to make sure that they don't show instantly where they're going to go. On this particular play, I would say that my partner probably from right here, you can show one step in, and then you really got to dart over to this side to make sure that you cover it. That's really maybe two steps where it's 1, 2, and I think that's too late. I think you got to come in one right here, and now you got to make sure that you're moving over to this direction afterwards. But you can see how this works, that it's really important that the server doesn't give it away. Now let me give you another example here. I think it's this next point where the server is going to move a little bit too quickly to their right. They're going to serve and just start over there. And now what's happening, even though I'm putting in a fake, the receiver now can really tell that the server's obviously not covering on this side of the court, is going to cover here. So no matter what I'm doing here, the returner can really tell that eventually I'm going to end up back here, and the return ought to come up the line. And so I just want you to make sure that if you're the server, if that's your role in this I formation, that you're not giving away the ultimate direction of where your partner's gonna end up. Whether it's going to be a kind of a poach and then a go, or a poach and a stay. Okay, let's talk about the situation if the return of serve ends up going back here to the server. And that's going to happen. That's going to happen frequently. But hopefully, what's happening, if that's the case, is that now the server has got an easier time handling that return, as opposed to before, when you guys were getting steamrolled and that returner was just cranking it cross court, or always seeming to guess where that net player was going to move. And what I like in this particular situation here, where this return now comes back to the server, if you get a decently high volley, which is going to be, let's say, waist high or shoulder high, I like to take this volley and play it right back here in the middle, because what I want for us is I want the next shot from them coming out of the middle, as opposed to if you take this shot and sort of play it over here. This now means that the server's got to really sort of cover in this direction, and that starts to open up the middle in terms of a ball being hit here. So we got a lot of lines going on there. Hope I'm not confusing you with this, but ideally what you want to feel here, or ideally what you want to do with this shot is you want to be able to initially take it cross court on a relatively, let's call it a high volley, first volley, which is maybe a, waist high to shoulder high volley. The second option is if you've got a half volley in here, sometimes if it's down low and you kind of pop it up, you really give this player here an opportunity. So half volleys, I just try to shove it back here right in the kind of in the middle, kind of the ad side, if that's the side that we're playing to, again, rather than kind of taking it out here in the alley. And because this is an easier ball for both of us, the server and the net player, to be able to handle geometrically a ball that's coming out of that part of the court than what's coming out of this part of the court. Now, the other situation here is if the server serves and doesn't come in, but just sort of stays back. And I see this frequently where you've got maybe a server who's got a slower serve, and really it's sort of easier to look for the return as being more of a transitional shot, where the return ends up in here. And the transitional shot, rather than being a tough half volley, let's make that more of an approach shot type, where the server plays their serve from over here. They move in more along the baseline, if not a foot inside. And really what they're looking for here is a ball that they can approach on from this part of the court as a transitional shot, rather than having to play a tough half volley. And short of that, if the return's good, lots of times what happens with this server playing the serve and then moving over to along the baseline, is that the next shot here, the ground stroke is much easier than say that tough half volley transitional shot. And once that happens, I really want the net player here to look at that as another opportunity to show a fake. Again, we're not going to poach because we know our partner's over here, but the fake poach really can be a visual distraction. And sometimes, what happens? Your fake poach is so good that on this second shot from the returner, that they're thinking, he's poaching. And what do you get? You get a nice ball that you can work with here. So those are kind of a few situations, a few potential situations that might happen if the initial return does go back to the server.